I don't want it to sound trite when I say that God reached down and touched me at an early age. I had, excuse me, if any of my kinfolk ever see this, then I'll lose more than what I've lost already. I was born into a family where my father was an overt racist, my mother was a covert racist, but both of them had very strong, I always felt like my mother was more dangerous in that respect. But so it was not something that came to me from training as childhood, but I was also born with cardiac lesion. And through that, I was different from other children because I was so ill at a certain period of time when other children were out running playing. So I was different, which gave me an understanding of what it was like, how people felt to be different. And then as I got older, this knowledge that these things were wrong, as I acted on those things, things happened to me, adverse things. I belonged to a Southern Baptist church. I was saved in that church. And I was thrown out of that church in my early 20s, which was back in the 60s, because I taught that racism was wrong in a Sunday school class. I was asked to leave that church, and the elder of the church, the deacon of the church that came to me and talked to me about it the first time was my grandfather. And he said, you can't say these things. And I said, I can't not say these things. And so he came back with other deacons and they asked me. So it's been a process. But then when my youngest son was in the 7th grade, he brought home with him a young black male child that was in his class. And he came in, and my children have always believed that with my mouth I could make anything right, I could speak. And he came in, and John, the African-American child's name, he stayed outside. And Mark came in, and Mark said to me, Mama, I've got a friend, and you've got to help him. And when we talked, John was a big, strong, athletic child. And if someone called him a word, if they called him nigger, if they said something, then he just got mad, fought. And Mark said, he's going to kill somebody and end up in jail. You got to talk to him. You got to help him. And because of the circumstances, he was the child of a single mother, and her job was second shift. It evolved in that he stayed with us from Sunday night when his mother went to work until Friday afternoon when he would go home and then be with his mother and his sisters in the afternoons and the weekend, and she would bring him back. So he lived with us, and we would get threats because we lived in a white neighborhood and John was living with us. Mark, it reached a point where Mark would be more angry than John would at the things that would happen at school because they loved each other. They cared about each other. We had one bed in their bedrooms, so they traded out. One slept on the floor and the other one had the bed, and the next night it reversed, But through him, because he constantly had to fight. He wouldn't do anything, but he had to fight. And through this, I really got a taste of what your people go through. I didn't understand how he felt, but I got a taste of it. And the lesson that I was trying to give him, that Mark kept saying, Mama, talk to him, you got to, was, John, if they say something to you and it causes a reaction in you, that even if you whip them, they've still controlled what you've done. They've still been the one that caused the reaction or the reaction in you. And through this, but, so many stories of injustice for him. And the things that we went through as a family because of our association, just simply because we loved him. All of these things. See, God doesn't set you on a path and not prepare you for that path. So all of these things, being different myself, being struck down by my own people because of what I believe, and then loving someone. I'm not sure any white person could ever enter into this battle and be on this side of the firing line unless they love someone of color. Because most of us isolate ourselves. We can get up in the morning, go to work, go shopping, go do everything in our life that has to be done without coming in contact with you. So unless we love someone, we don't know what you think, what you feel. And don't tell me my best friend is, because I hear that all the time. My best friend is black. I don't want to hear that.
I hear that a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
If you've stated that you're interested in solving this problem and ending racism, in your view, if the system of racism, white supremacy, is ended, what benefits would white people experience?
The guilt would go away, for one thing. Well, the present day guilt, because we can't ever undo what we've done. So, but that's difficult. What would we gain? Because most people ask me, what would we lose? That's a difficult question. Peace, because racism is the cause of the problems that we have in this country. It's the cause of the crime. It's, racism is, I feel like, the backbone of all ills that this country has. So we've gained peace. We would also gain knowing you and knowing about your culture, what you still know of it, because we've robbed you of most of it. We would gain that if the day ever came when I could walk into a place of work and you could be there wearing whatever clothing you wanted to wear, whether it was clothing that depicted your African descent or wearing your hair. White people tend to say, well, that's another question, I guess. We would gain knowing you, see, because we don't know you. And that robs us of a great blessing. We think we are entire and complete, and that we don't need to know you or anyone of color that is of a different belief. We close ourselves off and think that we're contaminated if we talk with someone of, and I'm talking about Christians. I know more about Christians than I do any other faith, because that's me. But most Christians feel like they're contaminated if they talk to anyone that's of a different faith. So we rob ourselves of that. So if racism ended,